When you look at a mountain or the coastline, it just feels so permanent, right? Like it's been there forever and will be there forever. But the truth is, the ground beneath our feet is in this constant, really, really slow state of transformation. And today, we're going to dive into the powerful, relentless forces that are always sculpting our planet.
Okay, so let's just get right to the heart of it with one huge question. How does a mountain become a grain of sand? I mean, really think about that. How does something so colossal get broken down into something so tiny you can hold it between your fingers? Well, the answer, it's a journey, an epic journey of a rock, and that's the story we're going to follow.
And this whole journey is basically a three-step process. First, you've got the breakup, which we call weathering. Then comes the move, that's erosion. And finally, the drop, which is deposition. Now, these aren't three separate things. Think of them like a tag team, working together to shape pretty much everything we see.
All right, so let's start with Act 1, the Great Breakup. It makes sense, right? Before a rock can go anywhere, it's got to be broken down first, right where it sits. And that crucial first step is all about weathering.
So what is weathering exactly? Well, it's all the physical and chemical processes that just break stuff down. They take big objects, like rocks, and turn them into smaller pieces, which we call sediment. It's basically the prep work, It's creating all the raw material for the really big changes that are coming up next.
Now, weathering has a couple of different ways it goes about its business. First, there's physical weathering. This is kind of the brute force method. It just smashes a rock into smaller bits. So if a piece of granite breaks, you just get smaller pieces of granite. Simple. But then there's chemical weathering. And this is where it gets really interesting. It actually changes what the rock is made of. It transforms the material itself. So that piece of granite, after chemical weathering, it's not granite anymore. It's something totally new. And this stuff is happening all around us all the time. I mean, a plant's roots can get into a tiny crack and just slowly pry a rock apart. Animals digging burrows, they're exposing fresh rock to the elements. And get this, slightly acidic rain falling for thousands and thousands of years can literally dissolve limestone and carve out these massive caves. Wow. Or it can be as simple as wind just blowing tiny bits of sand against a rock, acting like a giant piece of sandpaper. It's relentless. Okay, so our rock is now officially broken down into sediment. It's all prepped and ready for the next part of its adventure. It's time to hit the road. And this is where erosion takes over.
Yep, erosion is all about movement. It's a transportation phase. It's the process that picks up all that weathered material and just carries it away. Sometimes just a few feet, other times for hundreds of miles. You ever seen a really muddy, brown river after a big storm? You are literally watching erosion happen right in front of your eyes. All that mud is just sediment on a journey. So who are the movers and shakers doing all this work? Well, we call them the agents of change. You've got four main ones. Water is the big one, of course. Rivers, ocean waves, you name it. Wind is another, especially for smaller particles. Ice, in the form of these massive glaciers, basically acts like a giant bulldozer. And then there's just good old gravity, pulling everything downhill. And the secret to how these agents work, especially water, is all about energy. Just picture a super fast-moving mountain river. It's got so much energy, right? And all that power lets it just scoop up sediment and carry it along, literally carving out the landscape as it goes. But what happens when that same river leaves the steep mountains and hits a big, flat valley? Well, it slows way, way down. And when it slows down, it loses all that energy. It just gets tired. It can't hold on to all that heavy sediment anymore. So what does it have to do? It starts dropping it. And that, right there, sets us up perfectly for the grand finale.
This whole dropping thing, well, that's our third and final act. The sediment has been broken up, it's been carried on this long journey, and now it's finally time to settle down in a new home. This is deposition, the final stop.
Deposition is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's just depositing the eroded material in a new place. If erosion is the part that carves things away, deposition is the constructive part that builds new things up. And it all happens when those agents of erosion, the water, the wind, just run out of steam and can't carry their load anymore. And this is where it gets really cool, because you see how these forces are two sides of the same coin? Erosion carves, deposition builds. So a river carves a V-shaped valley, but it builds a giant delta where it meets the ocean. Wind erodes a rock into a beautiful arch, but it builds a huge sand dune somewhere else. A glacier carves a massive U-shaped valley, and then it builds a ridge called a moraine by depositing all the debris it was carrying. They are creators and destroyers all at once. So if you take one thing away from this, it's this. Weathering, erosion, and deposition are not separate things. They're locked together in this constant dance that is literally shaping our planet 24/7. It's an engine that just never, ever shuts off.
But wait, the story doesn't end there. This isn't a one-way street. To really wrap our heads around this, we need to zoom out a bit and see how this three-step journey is actually part of a much bigger, never-ending cycle.
So, you gotta ask, what happens to all that sediment that gets dropped off? Well, you pile it up for millions of years, add a whole lot of pressure, and guess what you get? You get brand new rock, sedimentary rock. And then, what happens when geologic forces push that new rock up to the surface? Yup, you guessed it. The whole thing starts over again. Weathering kicks in, and the cycle repeats. That's the great rock cycle of our planet in action. So here is my challenge to you. The next time you're outside, it doesn't matter if you're looking at a huge canyon, a sandy beach, or even just a little crack in the sidewalk. I want you to really look. Ask yourself, can you see the evidence? Can you read the epic story that these forces have written all over the world around you?